Alright, kiddos. Apologize for the noise. I'm recording this during first hour. And I'm not going to tell them to be super quiet for this recording. Okay, so I was asked how to essentially make it so whenever a object hits a thing, it collides with it and then essentially stops it from moving somewhere. So for this one specifically, they asked if I could keep a thing inside of a house. So we got this slime. He's moving at a speed of 1 at 0 degrees, and he leaves the house. We don't want him to leave. So first thing I want to create, this is going to be essentially our invisible wall, but we want to make it visible for us, but not for the player. So let's do SPR, we're going to call it collision. SPR collision. And I'm going to go ahead and make this just a square, honestly. So let's make it a 16 by 16 square. Edit this image. What I'm going to do is pick orange, and I'm going to lower the alpha down. That way it's a little bit transparent for us. So fill this thing. That's our sprite. And now we need an object. Object. OBJ collision. Alright. Sprite. Obviously we're picking SPR collision. And that's really all we need on him so far. So next we need to go ahead and set up our room. So room's already pretty well set up. We have our instances here. We have an asset layer. That's just to make the house look nice because I didn't want to have to make an object for it. In the background, we don't have anything. So what we need to actually do is create another instance layer. So we're going to click here, create new instance layer. You can name it whatever you want. You can keep instances 1 for all I care. For organization purposes, I'm going to name this layer collision, because that's all that's going to be on it is our collisions. And it'll make sense in a little bit why I specifically have it like that. So we're going to go ahead and click OBJ collision, and while we have the collision layer selected, I can press Alt and add these little squares, or honestly, I can just drag them in here. So let's drag it here. I'm going to stretch this just a bit that way and downward, and then we're going to drag this up so that way we now have a semi-invisible wall that our slime cannot get past, right? Let's see. There he goes. Let's see if we've trapped our slime. No, he simply walks past it. Okay, so what do we need to do next? Well, we need to actually program the collision block, or rather the slime, to collide with the block. So, add an event, collision. We're going to have a collision with OBJ collision. So, what do we want this to do? We want this to stop whenever it hits. So, whenever this thing collides with our collision, we are going to set instance variable horizontal speed to 0. And honestly, that should be mostly it. But let's see what happens. Oh, there we go. Easy peasy, right? Now, what you're probably actually wanting is this slime to go back and forth, right? So, here's something we can do instead. So, instead of setting the horizontal speed to 0, we're going to set this to -1. So, why -1 instead of 0? Because that's going to turn our sprite around no matter what, essentially. Because -1 is going to send it to the left. However, if he was already going to the left, it would be -1 times -1, which is +1, which sends him to the right. So either way, it's going to reverse the direction that the thing is going, theoretically. Let's see if I got this right. And he bounces off and goes the other way. What about this? Ooh, not quite, not quite. So, weird collision here, or weird thing here that doesn't really change him. Let's see. That's something I may have to fix later, off camera. Alright, after like 15 minutes of trying to get this to work, could not get it to work. I'm going to have to come back to this later, but for now, to the student who wanted this specific thing, the slime now stays here. So, let's talk about this thing right here, the collision layer that we have. So what we're going to do is make this thing invisible, so that way the slime crashes into it, but still, like, stops. But we don't want to see it. So all we gotta do, we're going to go to our room, go to our collision layer, click the eye. And now we don't see it. However, we can still interact with it. Let's watch this slime. Go to the end